Welcome everybody, it is a new day and it is time for a new stream. I hope you guys had a good couple of days. There's been a lot going on in the world and I think it is time that we get to it. Attila, welcome. So on Monday we covered some of the some of the things that Trump was saying about South Africa. So in case you missed it, Trump basically threatened to withhold US financial aid from South Africa if they don't stop. I don't really know if they implemented it yet, but basically South Africa passed a new land reform to try to deal with the massive land inequality that exists, and Trump threatened to apply economic sanctions, which, to be honest, I think South Africa only receives funding for one HIV program. So there isn't like a massive economic dependency, but it's still something that happens. How's it going? Welcome, directors. Everything's going well. So in case you don't know, I want to share this with you. That seems like a nice reform. I'm not very knowledgeable in to what is South African politics, but it seems reasonable, yeah. So I just want to show you guys something before we get started. I just need to set this up there. So I'm using this YouTube channel in case you're not following it. I don't want to post related content to my main channel, nor the things I care about to channel, so I just made this Tikanik YouTube channel, and this is where I'm going to be posting shorts from the streams and also all sort of content. So if you are interested in watching the stream, then you can find also summarized versions, and I'm also live streaming here right now. So whenever I'm going to be live on Twitch, I'm also going to be live here on my YouTube channel Tikanik. All right, so just that you guys know. So we talked about that, and we talked about the US basically stopping with the sanctions that were planned for Mexico and Canada. I wouldn't be surprised if I was in a few of those shorts. Very likely, I show the chat, so it's very likely that you are. And today we got, there's a few things going on. I was thinking about covering two of them. So first of all, of course, Trump's remarks about taking Gaza. We will get to that soon. And then I want to talk about President Nayib Bukele from El Salvador apparently offering to take America, or not necessarily, I guess some American prisoners, but also just deportees from the US and putting them into the Salvadorian prisons. So those are the two main things we want to talk about. Does Trump know that it's not called the Gaza Strip because it's a strip club? I don't know. Maybe he heard Free Palestine and he thought it was like a good business deal. Like, oh, free? I'll take it. I don't know. But yeah, we'll get to that. So let's go step by step. I'm going to quickly open up something for our first topic. So first of all, let's go to the claim itself. And then we are going to go through some of the reactions because that's interesting. Even Germany did not respond all that good. And, Germany is the #1 US supporter and Israel supporter. So that's interesting.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will...
Who destroyed the buildings, by the way? Like, you're standing next to the reason why those buildings are destroyed in the first place. Like, this guy right here, Benjamin Netanyahu, is literally wanted for war crimes by the ICC. Like, it is an insane situation. Search 1222, welcome to the channel. I hope you're doing great. So, I mean, this is insane any way you look at it.
Supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different, just can't go back.
Which people from the area? So that is something that's very important. Now, don't be fooled. This announcement comes right after the US has threatened South Africa, who is one of the leading countries when it comes to trying to hold Israel accountable for their actions in Gaza. They sent a message. Anyone who wants to oppose us will be severely punished. And now we see it happening in real time. What he is describing, removing the population that lives in the Gaza Strip, the Palestinians, he is not even naming, right, is what is called ethnic cleansing. Nothing less, right? It is a crime against humanity. And it's insane that news outlets apparently are, well, it's not really surprising, but news outlets just cannot call this for what it is. If you go into, I don't know, like the New York Times or something, or any major news outlet, here they say, well, Trump officials try to walk back Gaza takeover comments. Right? They say Trump's Gaza plan would violate international law, experts say. Like, it is a call for ethnic cleansing. That's what it is.
Let's get to NBC's chief.
I just don't see the political point of this. What is the point of losing men and resources to occupy land you don't have a claim to? I just don't see it. I mean, the thing is, the US at this point just wants to secure the land for Israel. Yeah, I think that's basically what it is. The US may keep it to themselves. I mean, one of the reasons why the US continues to support Israel is because Israel is an extension of the United States in the Middle East. It is there to protect their interests. And yeah, I don't know if Trump would want to give that territory to Israel, or maybe, I don't know, put like some sort of US base there or whatever. But it is 100% to continue to have influence in the region. Now, this has already been criticized even by Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, when you're getting unironically flanked on human rights issues by Saudi Arabia. I mean, when Saudi Arabia turns around, looks at you and says, what you're doing there, kind of messed up, buddy. You know that you're doing something that's very messed up. I also want to send my personal congratulations to every pro-Palestine progressive who didn't vote for Harris to stop the genocide. I mean, Harris was not going to stop the genocide. The only difference is who is committing it. I mean, Trump is worse, but come on, let's not pretend that Harris was going to stop the genocide. She said it herself. She was going to continue. I mean, I know that people want to find someone to blame, but why blame people who oppose the genocide and not blame the Democratic Party, who are the ones who had the opportunity to run a primary and chose not to do it, and then run a candidate who was unelectable and only had him fall out of the race in like August or something, and then never ever changed their stand on an issue that they knew was going to cost them the election. This is solely in the hands of the Democratic Party because they didn't want to win. They would rather lose the election than go against their plans in the Middle East. This is something that Republicans and Democrats have always been on the same side of, right? Foreign policy in the US is bipartisan, right? It's always been. Either way, genocide happens in Gaza, no matter which side you vote for. Yes, either side would have been horrible, like generally horrible. Trump, sure, I mean, he's gonna genocide them harder, but like, that is, that's not really who you should be mad at here. It's a shame that the only choices I have in the US are right-wingers and spineless bastards. I mean, that's my criticism of the Democrats. Bro, Trump has been in power for, I don't know, 2 weeks or something, and the amount of things he has done is insane. The Republicans get things done. Things I disagree with entirely. But you cannot disagree that they are doing a fuck ton of things. The Democrats never move at this speed because they are the protectors of the status quo. They are not there to enact change. They are there to block the existence of any kind of real resistance to the right wing. Harris was anything about pragmatism? I mean, yeah, she could have lied. She could have even said, you know what, I want a ceasefire, and then never done it. Right? Biden could have pushed for a ceasefire as well. Right? But yeah, DCI Banks, thank you. I appreciate you for enjoying my content. But yeah, I mean, it is something that is the responsibility of the Democratic Party, and it's one of the reasons why I hate them more, or I don't know if more, but similarly to the Republicans, because the Republicans, especially the way, always, are horrible, right? And the Democrats block the only possible alternative. Instead of having an alternative, you have the Democratic Party, who will never push for change. Look at what Trump has done in 2 weeks. An insane amount of executive decisions. They're just ignoring laws and the Constitution. They do not care. They get things done in their own interest. Democrats can never, ever do that for anything. Imagine if they had this kind of energy for actually improving the lives of regular Americans. They would end up winning every election until the end of the world. I'm a centrist liberal. I would probably be called a commie in the US, but if the Republicans ran anyone like McCain or even Bush. I mean, yeah, Harris was unlikable. And the Democrats didn't even want to have primaries again. They are incredibly arrogant. Don't forget that during the DNC, they literally laughed and covered their ears to not hear about pro-Palestinian protesters talking about what they wanted from them. Yeah, the thing is that Republicans are at least populist. They care about, or claim they care about the issues that affect regular Americans, and then don't really do anything about it and, arguably make it much worse. But they at least lie. Democrats are like, no, there's nothing we can do. Things are already good, actually. And, if you don't agree, you're like a Nazi or something. That's it. Yeah, vote for us or you're a horrible person. What happened here with the elections? They had nothing. They offered nothing for something that is a massive factor for the American voter, which is the genocide in Gaza. And they offered nothing. Absolutely nothing. They said, vote for us or else you will get, this fascist. And then they tried to side with them. They were like, you know what? I'm going to have Republicans who I have been calling fascist for years in my government, in my cabinet. That's what Harris said at one point. So what's going on?
If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And we've really done that. We're a respected nation again. A lot's happened in the last couple of weeks.
There's one thing I believe we can say for sure, is that since Trump took office, the US is much less respected than they used to be. What they have been doing, going around bullying countries, threatening Panama, threatening Denmark, threatening Mexico, threatening Canada, threatening South Africa, Am I forgetting about any other country? Not even mentioning the genocide itself, of course. But like those actions, people who are not in the US are looking at the US as an incredibly volatile country. And Colombia, you're right, Colombia, yes. Like, people are looking at the US and be like, you know what, this is insane. This is not normal. You cannot rely on someone who is behaving like this. You can have people fear you because countries know if they go against the interests of the United States, they are going to get fucked. Like, you can't do that. The US may not be the superpower that it once was, but it is still powerful enough to absolutely destroy your country if you go against them. And as the US empire continues to decline, it's going to get more and more aggressive. Empires go down screaming and kicking. He's bullying his own department, the education department. It's going to be another bully situation. He's going to try to go all out. Someone is going to sue. Yeah. He's threatening our allies like the rival companies to threaten extort. I mean, yeah, he's threatening the European Union as well. Like, that's insane. And this is going to push countries towards China. Of course it is. Because, you know, in the meantime, China is just chilling. They're just there, like, doing nothing. And even when it comes, for example, to the whole situation with the vaccines in the Philippines, I don't know if you remember this. During the pandemic, China was financing vaccination campaigns in the Philippines, and the US trying to counteract the influence that the Chinese were acquiring in that region. Instead of, you know, going in with their own vaccines, try to undermine trust in the Chinese vaccines and are now unironically responsible for growing anti-vax movements in the Philippines. Like, do I do my own? Yes, I do my own animations. I now have an animator who helps me do some of the work. We split it, but I do it on Adobe After Effects, not on Adobe Animate. China has worked hard since the last tariffs, so this isn't going to hit them as much as a surprise. Yeah. Anyways, let's continue.
Are actually a very respected nation again. I ended the last administration's de facto arms embargo on over $1 billion in military assistance for Israel. And I'm also pleased to announce that this afternoon, the United States...
Did it say the previous administration had an arms embargo on Israel? That's crazy.
...withdrew from the anti-Semitic UN Human Rights Council. And
oh my God. I mean, yeah, I forgot they did that. So the day before this, the US withdrew from the UN... what's it called again?
The United States withdrew from the anti-Semitic UN Human Rights Council.
The Human Rights Council, anti-Semitic. That is the thing. That's crazy. Anti-Semitism is definitely rising, and honestly, this whole situation is actually driving it as well. Because when you have a state committing atrocious acts, and you claim to be doing it in the name of Judaism, some people are going to say, well, this is what Jews do, right? And anti-Semites are on the rise, but criticizing the actions of a state does not make you an anti-Semite, right? So, for example, if I criticize the actions of Qatar, if I criticize the actions of Saudi Arabia because of their track records of slavery, of human rights abuses in general, that does not make you Islamophobic. I mean, you could be, and you could be criticizing the countries from an Islamophobic point of view. That happens a lot. There are anti-Semites who are now jumping on the bandwagon and just criticizing Israel, not because of their actions, but because, you know, they just don't like them because they're Jewish. You can criticize the actions of the United States, a primarily Christian country, and that does not make you Christianophobic. That's like saying the Human Rights Council is anti-Chinese because of the actions that CCP is taking. I mean, you know, it's just the US trying to desperately cover for Israel. That's what it is.
and ended all of the support for the UN Relief and Works Agency, which funneled money to Hamas and which was very disloyal to humanity.
Hamas, keep in mind, is the government. So of course, agencies are going to work alongside the government of the place they are working in. They just throw around Hamas as if it was some sort of, I don't know, Joker card that allows you to win every argument or something.
Humanity. Today, I also took action to restore a maximum pressure policy on the Iranian regime, and we will once again enforce the most aggressive possible sanctions, drive Iranian oil exports to zero, and diminish the regime's capacity to fund terror throughout the region and throughout the world.
All you do with sanctions is legitimize that country. Like, Iran is a very bad country. They abuse their citizens on a regular basis. Yes, very bad. But all you do, this is my same stance that I have with Venezuela, with North Korea. When you apply sanctions on those countries, the only thing that you are doing is legitimizing the government, because the government now says, oh no, we are under attack. We need to go after the dissidents to keep strong. These people are trying to undermine our government. Like, just let those countries run their course. Iran was trying to achieve a level of democracy before the US and Britain interfered in the first place. Right? This is not going to help. It doesn't matter how many sanctions you throw at a country. It's only going to make the people from that country suffer. It's not going to do anything to actually, get rid of the government. It didn't work against Putin. It didn't work against Maduro. And in fact, I guess I'm going to show you this again. Let me look it up. So I'm going to show you two sources here. So, US sanctions on Venezuela responsible for tens of thousands of deaths, claims new report. As many as 40,000 people may have died in Venezuela as a result of US sanctions that made it harder for ordinary citizens to access food, medicine, and medical equipment. These sanctions are depriving Venezuelans of life-saving medicines, medical equipment, food, and other essential imports, says the report, co-authored by Jeffrey Sachs. This is illegal under US and international law, and treaties that the US has signed. Congress should move to stop it. This is not harming Maduro. This is harming random Americans. Here we have another article. Report finds US sanctions on Venezuela are responsible for tens of thousands of deaths. And I guess it's about the same thing, so no need to read it again. It's never going to work. Sanctioning the country doesn't work. And also, like, being the US and claiming that another country is a rogue state is, come on. I don't think allowing dictators to buy weapons is a nice idea. They're going to get their weapons at home, first of all. And also, the US is already supplying weapons, not only the US, Europe as well, supplying weapons to Israel and, for example, Saudi Arabia. Right? Saudi Arabia also responsible for horrible human rights abuses, but no one really cares, right? I think that the US has to stop meddling with every country that comes across them, and maybe do meddle with some of them, like Israel. And someone asked about the whole two-state solution thing. I think a two-state solution may have been possible before this thing exploded after October 7th. At this point, I don't think there's really a possibility for two states to exist without a complete dismantling of Israel. The entire Israeli leadership needs to be put on trial. Sure, those who on the side of Hamas as well, but there's really few of them. It's way more on the side of Israel. There would have to be many of their accomplices from the US, from Europe, who would have to be put on trial as well, and there would have to be like some sort of re-education program so that people, like what happened, kind of, Germany didn't really go through all that much of a denazification process, but at least a little bit, right? But there will have to be some sort of like de-Zionization process so that people learn about how and why what Israel has done is so bad, and try to, foment a way for the Palestinians and the Israelis to be able to live together in the future. But that's not going to happen, right? It's too much of a change. I don't think it's going to go there. I think this is going to keep escalating until something breaks, and it's not going to be good.
No threat when I left office. Iran was not able to sell oil. Nobody was buying oil because I said, don't buy it. If you buy it, you're not doing any business with the United States. And Hamas was not being funded. Hezbollah was not being funded. Nobody was being funded. There would never have been an October 7th. 2 weeks ago, I once again...
And yeah, Trump, one of the reasons for October 7th, unironically, were the treaties that Trump did, right, recognizing basically that Jerusalem was a part of Israel, and the whole Abrahamic Accords. Like, it is indeed also his responsibility, even though he wasn't the president when it exploded.
Designated the Houthis as a terrorist organization. They're trying to destroy world shipping lanes, and that's not going to happen. And over the weekend, I ordered airstrikes against senior ISIS leaders hiding in Somalia, and took them out. Here in America, we've begun the process of deporting foreign terrorists, jihadists, and Hamas sympathizers from our soil, just as we have.
The thing is that these guys are using such a broad definition of what they mean, or they have such a broad definition of what an anti-Semite is or what a Hamas sympathizer is, that it is very worrisome when they talk about deporting someone who is pro-Hamas. Because there are many who are legitimately anti-Semitic, right? Like the classic example of Candace Owens. But these guys think that if you support Palestine in any way, or in any way criticize any action that Israel may have done, then you would fall under those labels, pro-Hamas or anti-Semitic, even though it is not accurate at all. He recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. No, yes, Jerusalem was partitioned indeed. There is a part of Jerusalem that is, in principle, part of Palestine. And there's a whole matter of occupation there. It is under occupation. But yeah, by recognizing it as the capital of Israel, what Trump did, or I think that what he did was he moved the embassy. I can't quite recall. You can correct me if I am wrong. But he basically recognized that the occupation is legit. And yeah, and at the same time, it's not just Gaza. There's also an expansion of building settlements in the West Bank, and violence overall in what is an apartheid state, right? Internationally recognized as an apartheid state, the violence just continues. As far as I'm aware, he's deporting anyone that's not a U.S. citizen or here legally. For now, yes, but they have threatened to deport people based on them not supporting Israel, which is crazy. Right? And keep in mind, I think it is in Texas, right? In Texas, you literally have to sign that you support Israel, and that you're not going to I think if you work for the Texas government, you unironically need to sign in your contract that you're not going to criticize Israel, which is crazy.
People that are extremely evil, and we're sending them out of our country. They came from jails. They came from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they were dumped into our country. They're gang members. We're getting them out at numbers.
Does he have a legal standing to deport people based on political standings? No, but it doesn't matter. And he's probably going to start off with, I don't know, people who are in visas, and they're just going to not renew their visas or something. But I mean, yeah, he's probably not going to act by the legal standings all that long. We have already seen that they're pushing the boundaries of the law, right? Elon Musk is kind of taking over the government in some senses, which shouldn't really be if you look at the law, but it's still happening. So I don't think that just because something is outside the bounds of the law means that it's not going to happen.
Nobody can actually believe, and every single country is taking those people back. They said they would never take them back, and they're all taking them back, and they're taking them.
Colombia had already taken, like, what is it, like 170 planes with migrants before. Like, Obama deported, I think, the most people. Biden deported a lot of people. They have all been deporting people.
Back very gladly. And I recently signed an executive order combating the vile wave of anti-Semitism that we've seen in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks. Together, America and Israel will renew the optimism that shined so brightly just 4 years ago. It was really a bright, beautiful light. We will restore calm and stability to the region and expand.
You gotta keep in mind, like, before October 7th, Israel was committing, and they still are, constant atrocities against Palestinians. There's a reason why the average age in Gaza was like 18 before October 7th. There was like, what, 50% unemployment in Gaza? 90% of the water in Gaza was toxic. Gazans were forbidden from even collecting rainwater. They could not import things such as concrete. They couldn't import things such as cookies because they were, they're going to use it to build bombs or whatever. That is what was happening 4 years ago, not even mentioning, once again, the apartheid state that is Israel, especially in its occupied territories. Right? And that's not me saying it. That is, the international human rights organizations who have said that repeatedly. The ICC has even referenced that several times. I think in one of their recent rulings, they did mention Israel breaking or committing apartheid. I also wonder how much of his own party will abandon him if he oversteps. Not at all. The Republicans don't care. Trump gets their dreams fulfilled. Republicans are not going to care. Democrats are not going to care. Democrats are not resisting in any way. They are still certifying the appointments of every Trump cabinet position. They don't care. They're just confirming everyone. They're not trying to push back in any way. No one's going to do anything about it. Now, there's been reactions to this, so let's try to take a look at this.
Foreign correspondent Richard Engel. We've, of course, covered this region for decades, lived there as well, Richard. So let's just start with the reaction that's coming in. We've already heard from the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. How are world leaders, particularly in the Middle East, reacting?
Yeah, because keep in mind, part of the Trump plan is to take the people from Gaza and send them either to Egypt or to Jordan. Now, both of those countries have already said they do not want to take the Palestinians in, right? Again, this is a plan for ethnic cleansing. And by the way, Hitler also initially had a plan to not kill the Jews, but expel them and send them to other countries, right? Just putting that out there. So Trump cannot really expect to do that. He mentioned briefly, I think, the possibility of forcing those countries to take the Palestinians in. But I don't know if that's going to lead anywhere. I think it is too much. I think the U.S. would be overreaching if they tried to do that.
So I've been speaking, Savannah, since this announcement came from President Trump with powerful leaders in the region, members of royal families, and the universal reaction was shock and horror. People don't believe this is feasible. They're not sure if Trump is serious, but they believe that this should not happen, that it would be destabilizing, that it would be the tantamount to ethnic cleansing in the region, because many
It is ethnic cleansing. Yes.
Palestinians don't want to go. The neighboring countries, particularly Egypt and Jordan, don't want to take them in. So that would mean, in theory, if this were to go ahead, the U.S. military going in there and...
I think there's about, or there were, I don't think there's like a current census, but I think there were like 2 million Palestinians before October 7th, right?
moving people with the barrel of a gun and putting them on some sort of buses and trains and sending them into countries where they don't want to go and countries where they're not welcome. There's a very simplistic argument that could be made that, sure, it makes a lot of sense. You've got an area that has been destroyed. You've got more than 2 million people living there without basic services. So why wouldn't they want to go someplace else where they can have a better life?
How about we make the countries that destroyed that area pay reparations and rebuild it or something? Palestinians don't want to go. I mean, if you look at these images, it is insane. This is what Israel did. Look at this. If you think that this was always the goal, right? There's a reason why Israel and the US, with the help of their European allies, ensured to destroy the entirety of Gaza. Because now they're like, oh, wow, Gaza is destroyed. Oh my God, there must have been a very powerful earthquake or something. I guess it is best for Palestinians to go somewhere else. This was not our plan at all. It just coincided. It just happened, you know. Somehow all the buildings are now destroyed. There are no more schools, no more hospitals, no more universities, no more anything, you know. All the civil records are destroyed. I don't know how that happened, but I guess it's going to be better for you guys to, you know, go somewhere else. This was always the plan. Now, someone sent a link. I'm scared to click it, so let's see. It's got porn in the name, so okay. Let's see. It says Google Earth has begun updating images of Gaza. These are taken all from North Gaza, mostly in the villages of Beit Lahiya, Beit Hanon, and the Jabalia refugee camp. These before images were taken in the early August. This is after 45 days. All right, so let's take a look at it. I mean, yeah, it's complete destruction. This doesn't happen by mistake. This was done deliberately. It's crazy to see a genocide playing out in front of our very eyes, yes, and to see that the world's most powerful people are supporting and enabling it. Right? We were led to believe that when something like this would happen again, that, you know, the big good guys, the United States, Germany, who were supposed to have learned after World War II, would rise up and do something. And they are doing something. They are doing the genocide.
And create an opportunity to rebuild the territory. But the question is, President Trump talks about making this a Riviera in the Middle East. For whom? For Palestinians or for Israelis? Palestinians certainly believe if there is going to be any kind of reconstruction there under the Trump's perspective, it would be for the Israelis, and that the Palestinians would be displaced and never be allowed to return to their homes or their homeland.
Richard, this idea that the president floated yesterday, that he's not ruling out the possibility of sending troops to the region there. We heard a number of lawmakers seem pretty dismissive of that. What would that even look like, Richard? And what could the potential fallout of U.S. troops being in that part of the world, what would that fallout look like as well?
The U.S. would be entering into a guerrilla war because some Palestinians could be incentivized to leave, no doubt, that when they go back to their homes. And that is happening right now. Palestinians are moving from the southern parts of Gaza Strip to the north. They're finding very little left. They're seeing tremendous amounts of damage. So some Palestinians probably could be encouraged to leave. But many others would not. Hamas has already said it won't leave. Other factions would certainly emerge. So you'd have American troops occupying, potentially for a long term, one of the most problematic places in the entire Middle East. And for administration and for a president who said that he wants to get out of foreign wars, this would certainly be a very potentially violent entanglement.
All right, Richard, we'll continue to follow it. Thank you for your analysis. Appreciate that.
Hey, thanks for watching.
I don't really know if this is actually going to happen. I don't think so, but the increase of terrorism in the U.S. this would serve as a cause. I mean, could be.
This morning to a controversial proposal by President Trump in the Middle East. The president wants the U.S. to take over the Gaza Strip and rebuild it into a tourist destination. KTLA's Eric Spillman live.
I mean, how can you say that with a straight face, rebuild it into a tourist destination. That's like one of the memes. I know people were saying that from the outbreak of the war, because that was always the plan, right? Beachside property, and yeah, a new Trump resort. And I guess we're gonna get it.
I'm in the newsroom with more on that. Eric, good morning.
We all know that President Trump is a former developer of hotels and resorts, and he wants to rebuild Gaza from scratch. But his proposal involves moving out the people who live there. And so far, foreign leaders do not think it's such a great idea.
That is ethnic cleansing. Say it. Say it.
We want to have, we want to give people the help.
Quote,
we have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East.
Rebuilding Gaza is going to take decades, if not 100 years. I mean, yes, there should be plans to rebuild, but it's going to take decades. The destruction that has been caused, removing the debris, building again, getting rid of the unexploded bombs, it's not going to be easy.
This could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent.
Gaza has been devastated by Israel's war against Hamas following that group's attack on Israel more than 15 months ago. President Trump says all 2 million Palestinians living in Gaza should leave and go elsewhere, perhaps to countries like Egypt and Jordan. He says the U.S. would dismantle all the unexploded
Germany
bombs.
recovered, but Germany was not in the position that Palestine is in. Not at all. Germany was not devastated to this extent, and Germany received a bunch of money from elsewhere. You gotta consider every university, every hospital in Palestine is gone, and things were already bad previously. And yeah, there's not gonna be any help. Maybe if they had like tons and tons and tons and tons of money, but still, Germany was mostly destroyed, or at least a lot of Germany was destroyed, but not to the extent that Gaza is.
Bombs in Gaza, get rid of the destroyed buildings and make it into a center for tourism and jobs. And he did not rule out sending U.S. troops there to put his plan in place. Also, he did not explain what legal authority would give the U.S. the right to take over the territory. But this morning on CBS, the president's national security advisor defended the idea.
The fact that nobody has a realistic solution, and he puts some very bold, fresh, new ideas out on the table, I don't think should be criticized.
Ethnic cleansing is a bold, new, fresh idea. National Security Advisor, oh my God.
In any way, I think it's going to bring the entire region to come with their own solutions.
But aside from that, reaction to the president's plan in many foreign capitals has been mostly negative. Saudi Arabia immediately rejected it and called for an independent Palestinian state. Turkey's foreign minister called it unacceptable. Egypt and Jordan say they refuse to take in people from Gaza. Many of the Palestinians living there are descendants of people who left homes in Israel during the 1948 war after Israel's independence. And now President Trump is suggesting
the war, after. It totally didn't start earlier, totally.
They be displaced again.
Our country and our home is the Gaza Strip. It's part of Palestine. We have no home. For those who want to send them to a happy, nice place, let them go back, to their original homes inside Israel. There are nice places there, and they will be happy to return to these places.
The president's remarks come at a sensitive time. Israel and Hamas are in the middle of negotiating a permanent ceasefire in Gaza that could lead to the end of fighting and the release of all the remaining hostages. That's the latest from the newsroom. We'll send it back to you.
I mean, I thought that they were going to mention more reactions. Like, I know that even Germany, let me see if I can find it. The foreign minister, foreign minister remark. So, which is kind of crazy, because the foreign minister Baerbock said, Gaza belongs to Palestinians. Any expulsion plan would be unacceptable. And this is the same person who in the past had said that bombing hospitals and schools is okay if there are terrorists hiding in there because they turn them into legitimate targets. This is what the German foreign minister Baerbock had said already in the past, and what Trump now said is too far even for them. Do you think a road to Israeli and Palestinian peace is even possible? Are they even capable of coexisting? I mean, in principle, yes, but Israel needs to completely dismantle the apartheid state immediately. Vacate every single settlement in the West Bank immediately. Offer restitution. Liberate every single prisoner that they have not even put on trial, right? The Israelis have a 99% conviction rate for Palestinians, which is insane. Palestine will have a moderate government once Israel stops fucking them over, right? Hamas is a response to decades of Israeli oppression. There will be a moderate government when the Palestinians don't feel like there's no other alternative. And never forget, Israel, in particular Netanyahu, literally funded and supported Hamas so that they could get in power. So everything that is unlikely to happen needs to, yes, as long as Israel exists in its current form, there will never be peace. Israel is systematically destroying. They will not stop. And you can clip this and come back in a couple of years, unfortunately. Israel will not stop until there is no more Palestine and there are no more Palestinians. Hello, panels. What's the topic? Well, Trump's remarks on Gaza. The war was the best thing that could have happened to him. Yes, that's why he was funding Hamas. Germany on Wednesday firmly rejected US President Donald Trump's plan to take over Gaza and permanently resettle its Palestinian population in other countries. Again, this is called ethnic cleansing. Call it for what it is. Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said in a statement that a negotiated two-state solution remains the only path forward. It is clear that Gaza, like the West Bank and East Jerusalem, belongs to the Palestinians. Is it clear? Because Germany has no conditions for support to Israel. They have unconditional support for Israel, even though Israel is continuously annexing and committing terrorism in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and again, forming what is an apartheid state in those places. There are different sets of roads, of rules, of laws for Palestinians and Israelis in the occupied territories. Right? They have different passports, they have different rights. That is an apartheid state. I also find it hard to believe that the Mossad didn't have any information about the October. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the pager attack was another blatant. I mean, Israel has done so much. Right? I don't think there will be real consequences, because as long as the US exists, Israel will have full support. So unless the US somehow collapses in the next couple of years and thus Israel is left alone, mostly, nothing will change, I don't think. Anyways, all right. Enough with this. I think we covered what needs to be covered. I don't know if there's anything that I missed. I think I'm going to now go for the second big topic of today, which is Trump and Bukele. Speaking of Germany, would you agree with the thought that Germany is unconditionally supporting Israel to make up or whitewash the Holocaust? Yes. I mean, not only, but there's definitely Germany is going super hard because they feel like they need to unconditionally support Israel because of kind of to make up for the Holocaust. But they are just doing the exact same thing again. So Bukele has recently offered, actually I don't want to go for that one, has recently offered to take in deportees.
And now moving to
in El Salvador, in Salvadorian prisons, I guess in exchange for money. This is obviously El Salvador realizing that if you cozy up to Trump, you may get some benefits. But let's see.
El Salvador, Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited the country and met President Nayib Bukele on Monday. After the meeting, President Bukele announced that El Salvador will house violent criminals and migrants of any nationality that are deported by the Trump administration. In addition, the Central American country will continue accepting Salvadoran deportees who illegally entered the United States. President Bukele added that members of the deadly MS-13 gang or other drug cartels that are deported by the United States will be put in El Salvador's prisons.
First, obviously, he continues with full cooperation on the returning of Salvadorians who find themselves illegally in the United States and welcome them back home. And that's already existing, and that will continue.
For once, free labor. I mean, yeah, I don't know if that is that, but I mean, it could be. It could be that this is, I mean, you know that these prisoners are going to be, or these migrants are going to be just kept in horrifyingly bad conditions, right? The prisons in El Salvador have already been denounced as being incredibly inhumane. And my worry, the main worry, criminals being in prison, sure, I believe in rehabilitation. I think my personal take is that there are some things that currently cannot be rehabilitated. I don't think that rapists and murderers should ever go back outside. I think they should be put in a prison and, you know, have like decent dignity, and that's it, and never be allowed back out. But for the other crimes that are not as bad, I think there should be rehabilitation. And yeah, I worry that the migrants being deported to El Salvador are not really going to be just, you know, massive murderers and mass rapists, but rather like a random fucking abuelita or a random Mexican guy or guy from Guatemala or whatever who went into the US illegally. I don't look at US politics for a week and everything becomes a clown show. I mean, honestly, this has been a clown show for longer than a week.
But second, he has agreed to accept for deportation any illegal alien in the United States who is a criminal from any nationality, be they MS-13 or Tren de Aragua, and house them in his jails.
Yeah, those are not nationalities, those are like criminal groups. But they're not just gonna deport people from those that are gang members. That's not what's gonna happen in reality.
And third, he has offered to house in his jails dangerous American criminals in custody in our country, including those of U.S. citizenship and legal residence.
Now, in return, the United States has offered to work with El Salvador to advance civil nuclear projects in the country. President Bukele confirmed that Washington remains the biggest ally of El Salvador, and the two countries will improve on bilateral trade relations.
That's what Bukele gets from this. It's going to be like the new Guantanamo Bay, probably.
Undeniable that the United States is our most important partner, our most important commercial partner, our biggest buyer of our exports, and the biggest place where our imports come from. We have a large number of Salvadorans living in the United States. We use the U.S. currency. For us, it is a no-brainer that for us, the United States is the most important relationship we have, and we want to strengthen it.
I think people can be rehabilitated, the things that they have to want to be rehabilitated. I mean, yes. And I think that for most people, yes, if someone is, I don't know, they stole something, they committed, I don't know, like relatively minor crimes, maybe they beat someone up or something. I think that is something you can rehabilitate. I think murder could be rehabilitated, but honestly, at least my take is that with murder and rape, the victim should not have to, not in the case of murder, but I guess in that case it's the victim's family, shouldn't have to worry about seeing this person on the street. I know several people who have been victims of sexual abuse and worse, and they live in constant fear of the day that their rapist is going to walk free again, and it is enough to make them unalive themselves. Like, it is a horrifying thought. Like, I have seen what it does to people, and even if the rapist were to be rehabilitated, I don't think they should leave prison just because it's going to ruin the lives of their victims. It doesn't happen for everyone, but it does happen. So for that reason, I think that the victims should be prioritized. They shouldn't have to fear retaliation. They shouldn't have to fear for their own safety. But yeah, other than that, I think that, yeah, we should strive for rehabilitation for the minor offenses.
Tratamos de cerrarlo, dirá el secretario, pero en el caso es un acuerdo.
The technologies, like nuclear energy, that will allow you to power a 21st century economy, that will allow this to be the home of every advanced technology and industry of this new era.
Now, Bukele has been instrumental in turning El Salvador's image from one of the most deadly countries in the world to one of the safest. The president's vast...
I mean, yes, but also no. So when it comes to crime in El Salvador, now I'm not an expert, but crime in El Salvador...
We want to bring Roman Gressier into this.
What? Crime in El Salvador has been going down year after year for quite a few years. I think, when did Bukele come to power? 2019, right? So if you look at this chart, which is, just the truth, it's not any particular chart, crime has been going down from 2015 to 2016 to 2017 to 2018 to 2019, and then Bukele came to power, and yeah, it continued to go down. So it's not just about Bukele like miraculously being the one who turned it around. And it's not to say that the situation in El Salvador was not horrifying, right? The amount of gang violence there is atrocious. But yeah, it's not like he just miraculously saved the country. And you gotta keep in mind, when you have a country that imprisons so many people without due process, which is what happens there, it is very dangerous. You can find that very quickly the country starts imprisoning people who may not have committed those crimes, especially again when there is no real due process, which is unfortunately what has been going on over there in El Salvador. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's too much more to say about this, but it is what it is. I just want to see if there's anything new development. I do think this is going to be my time to call it for today. It was a nice stream, an hour long. I'm going to try to... Luca, welcome. I just saw him in my YouTube chat. I just want to remind you guys, I'm live streaming both on Twitch and my politics YouTube channel, which is Tika Nick. So I'm going to just share with you guys the channel in case you haven't seen it already. And before you leave, make sure that you are following me on TikTok and on Twitch. I'm going to be back on Friday. I'm streaming every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. For now, the streams are not super long. I plan to, make it longer as time goes on. But, for now, I think this is a pretty decent rhythm. We can talk about some of the most important events. And yeah, if you haven't already, we also have a Discord community that you can join. Let me send you, I should have all these links grouped up to get together. I'm going to try to do it when I turn off the stream. So this is invite people. There it is. So this is the Discord server in case you haven't joined. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on Friday for another stream.